didn't react immediately, not because he didn't hear it, but because men like him weren't supposed to be locked inside rooms like this. A slow breath left his nose. Then he moved. 3 steps to the door. He grabbed the handle, pulled once. Nothing. Again. Still nothing. "Kira?" he called out, sharper now. "Open this door." Silence. Then footsteps outside. Careful, controlled, measured, like someone trying not to be noticed. "Anthony?" Kira's voice came through the wood. Relief flickered across his face. "Finally. What is this? Open the door." A pause. "I can't." That single line changed the air. Anthony narrowed his eyes. "You can't, or you won't. My in-laws are here." He blinked once. "And?" Another pause, then quieter. "They don't know you're here." Anthony leaned slightly toward the door. "I'm your brother." "I know," she said quickly, too quickly. "But not to them. Not right now." His jaw tightened. "So I'm what? An embarrassment? Something you hide in a room?" "No," she said. "It's just complicated." "Then simplify it." Silence again. When she spoke, her voice was lower. "They ask questions." "What questions?" A longer pause. Then, "About who you are." That landed harder than the locked door. Anthony exhaled slowly. "I'm your brother." "I know," she repeated, softer now. "But they don't need to know everything." "Everything?" His voice sharpened. "Or anything?" Footsteps suddenly approached behind her. A man's voice, firm, controlled, called her name. Kira tensed. "I have to go," she whispered. "Kira." "I'm sorry." Her steps faded, and then she was gone. Anthony stood still for a moment, listening, waiting. Nothing. He grabbed the handle again. Pulled harder this time. The door didn't move, not even slightly. A quiet breath left him. Then he turned away. The room wasn't a guest room. It was too clean, too empty, too intentional. No comfort, no personality, just containment. A place designed for someone not to be seen. Outside the window, Seoul glowed, alive, unbothered, far away. Anthony gave a small, dry laugh. Unbelievable. His phone buzzed once in his pocket, then died. No signal. Of course. From the hallway, voices began to drift in, low, calm, structured. Not family voices, command voices. Anthony stepped closer to the door again, listening. Chairman Park confirmed the delay. "Shipment will remain grounded until further notice." He stopped. That wasn't dinner talk. That was business, power, control. Anthony slowly stepped back. "So this isn't a family dinner," he muttered. It was something else, something coordinated, something dangerous. A knock returned to the door. Anthony turned instantly. "Kira." A different voice answered. Male, calm, too calm. "Stay inside." Silence. Then footsteps walking away. No explanation, no emotion, just instruction. Anthony didn't move for a long time. Then he sat down on the thin mattress. It was harder than it looked. Or maybe he was just noticing it now. A faint smile formed on his lips. Not warmth, not humor, recognition. 6 months ago, he muttered. Glass office, city skyline. People waiting outside his door for permission to speak. Now locked inside a polished room that didn't want to acknowledge he existed. Outside, faint laughter echoed through the hallway. Perfect, rehearsed, empty. Inside, the silence pressed closer. Anthony leaned his head back against the wall. His eyes closed for a moment, and something inside him shifted. Not fear, not confusion, but understanding. Because people don't lock ordinary men in rooms like this. They lock dangerous ones. Anthony didn't always live like this. There was a time when silence felt impossible. His phone never stopped ringing. "Bro, we need that deck by Monday." "Anthony, investors are asking for you." "Anthony, you're the only one who can close this." He used to like that sound. Urgent, needed, important. like the world couldn't function without him. Back then, his life sat above the Hudson River, glass walls, clean lines, a skyline that turned night into quiet luxury. Everything he built screamed success without saying a word. Fintech, payment infrastructure, cross-border systems connecting African markets to the world. It started as an idea on paper. Then it became something people couldn't ignore. Disruptive. Scalable. Next unicorn. Anthony never argued with the labels. He just kept building. Then he met Daniel Park, and everything shifted. "You think too small," Daniel said it casually, like it wasn't even an opinion, just truth. Anthony looked up. "And you think too big." A faint smile, calm, controlled, dangerous in a way that didn't announce itself. "That's why this works." People in the room didn't interrupt Daniel. They didn't even shift when he spoke. They waited. That was the first thing Anthony noticed. Not what Daniel said, but what everyone did when he said it. "You've got the product," Daniel continued, "but you don't have Asia." Anthony narrowed his eyes. "And you do." Daniel nodded once. "Korea, Japan. Access is already there." A pause, then softly. "You want regional success or global control?" That question stayed with Anthony long after the meeting ended. "You're trusting him too much." Tunde said it over drinks that night. Anthony smirked. "You've never even met him." "I don't need to," Tunde replied. "Men like that don't enter your life for nothing." Anthony leaned back. "It's business." Tunde shook his head. "It always starts that way." Anthony didn't answer, because deep down he already knew Daniel Park wasn't just another deal. He was an opportunity that didn't come twice. The partnership moved fast, too fast. But Anthony told himself that was normal. Growth was supposed to feel unstable, aggressive, risk-heavy, alive. "Trust me," Daniel said more than once. And Anthony did. He gave access, systems, investor channels, regional control, everything that mattered. Then came the first crack. "Funds haven't cleared," Daniel said over the phone. Anthony frowned. "That's not possible. Everything was approved." "Banking delay," Daniel replied smoothly. "It will resolve." It didn't. Then the email arrived. A major investor. "Please confirm your current role following restructuring." Anthony stared at the screen. What restructuring? By the time he arrived at the office, something felt off. No one met his eyes. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Even the air felt redirected, like he had already been removed from it. In the boardroom, Daniel sat at the head of the table, like he had always belonged there. Anthony stopped at the doorway. "What is this?" Daniel didn't smile. "It's business." Anthony stepped forward. "Explain." Daniel folded his hands. "You over-leveraged, took risks without securing downside protection. The board lost confidence." Anthony's jaw tightened. "That's a lie." Daniel nodded once. "It's a narrative." A pause. "And right now, it's the only one that matters." Anthony looked around the room. One by one. No one returned his gaze. "You're backing this?" Silence. That silence was louder than any answer. "You're removing me from my own company?" Daniel finally looked at him directly. Effective immediately. Something inside Anthony tightened, then cracked. A short laugh escaped him. "You really think this ends here?" Daniel tilted his head slightly. "By the time it reaches you, it won't matter anymore. Where's the money?" A pause. Then Daniel smiled. Small, precise. "Gone." Everything collapsed after that. Accounts frozen. Investigations opened. His name rewritten into something unrecognizable. Mismanagement. Risk exposure. Executive negligence. Words that stuck to him like residue. Messages changed tone. Anthony, it's complicated right now. I can't be involved. I'm sorry, even Tunda. I told you." No anger, just distance. 3 months later, his apartment was gone. 6 months later, his name carried no weight, and the man who once controlled boardrooms was standing outside his sister's door in Seoul, holding a single suitcase. Kira opened the door slowly. She froze the moment she saw him. Then softly, "Anthony?" He tried to smile. "Hey." She stepped aside. "Come in." That was the last time a door opened for him without hesitation. Back to present. Inside the locked room, Anthony opened his eyes. Same ceiling, same silence. But something inside him had changed shape. Not confusion anymore, not shock. Clarity. He exhaled slowly. Daniel Park. The name didn't break him now. It focused him. Because now he understood something simple. This wasn't where his story ended. It was where it had been buried. Outside the door, life continued like nothing had happened. Inside, something had just started waking up. Kira's house didn't feel like a home to Anthony. It felt like a place he was temporarily tolerated in. At first, it wasn't obvious. The greetings were warm enough. "Welcome, Anthony. Please feel at home. Just rest. Take your time." But warmth doesn't disappear all at once. It disappears in small, precise cuts. The fridge stopped feeling open to him. Conversations in the living room lowered the moment he entered. Even Kira's children began watching him differently, like he was a question no one wanted to answer out loud. One afternoon, Anthony reached for a bottle of water. Kira's mother-in-law stepped in immediately. "Oh, no, that one is for guests," she said politely. Firm, final. Anthony paused. "I'm a guest?" A soft smile, no warmth in it. "You understand what I mean?" He nodded once and closed the fridge. He didn't argue. He just started noticing everything. "Kira," he said one night, voice low, "am I a problem here?" She looked up too quickly from her phone. "What?" "No." But she didn't meet his eyes. Anthony leaned against the counter. "Because it feels like I am," Kira sighed. "It's not like that." "Then explain it." Silence stretched. From the living room, laughter rose. Her husband, visiting relatives, expensive voices speaking too confidently in Korean. Kira lowered hers. "They're important people." "I noticed." "And they're traditional." Anthony raised a brow. "Traditional how?" She hesitated. Then finally, "They don't really understand why an unmarried African man is staying in a married woman's home." That landed heavy. Anthony let out a short, dry laugh. "So that's it." "It's not personal," she said quickly. "It's perception." He nodded slowly. "Perception is always personal to the person being erased." Kira looked away. After that, the house changed again. Subtle, controlled, intentional. The guest room became your space. Then it became, stay there when visitors are around. Then it became silence with no explanation at all. Anthony started staying inside more, not because he wanted to, because it was easier. Outside, the house transformed when guests arrived. Polished shoes at the entrance, low bows, soft greetings in Korean. Status performed like a routine. Kira's husband became someone else entirely, louder, sharper, smiling wider, acting wealth like it was a language he had mastered. And Anthony? He disappeared before anyone could acknowledge he was there. One evening, Kira came to his door. She didn't knock immediately. She just stood there. "Anthony," she said softly. He opened the door halfway. "What is it?" "There's a dinner tonight." "I know." Her eyes flicked away. "Important people are coming." I figured. A pause. Then she lowered her voice. "Please, just stay in your room tonight. Don't come out." Anthony stared at her. "For how long?" "Just a few hours." He laughed once. No humor in it. "You're asking me to hide. I'm asking you to avoid questions." "Same thing." Kira stepped closer. "You don't understand how things work here." Anthony leaned on the door frame. "Then explain it like I'm not the problem." She hesitated. That hesitation said everything. Finally, she whispered, "They're connected people, business people. Some of them don't ask polite questions." Anthony narrowed his eyes. And I do? Kira didn't answer. That night the house changed again. Footsteps multiplied. Doors opened and closed in coordinated rhythm. The air filled with expensive perfume and controlled power. Anthony sat on the floor of his room staring at the wall. Voices drifted through the house. Park family expects full cooperation. Shipment routes remain stable. No disruptions tonight. His eyes sharpened slightly. That wasn't dinner talk. That was operational language. Then he heard it. A name, not Kira's husband, not guests. A title, chairman. Anthony slowly stood, walked to the door, pressed his ear against it. Security is tight. No outsiders. Outsiders. That word didn't feel random anymore. It felt directed, because suddenly Anthony understood something no one had explained. He wasn't staying in a house. He was inside a structure, a system, a hierarchy, and he didn't belong in it. The knock came later, 3 sharp taps. Anthony didn't move immediately. Then a voice followed, male, calm, heavy. Stay where you are. He froze. Who is that? Anthony called back. No answer. Only footsteps walking away. Slow, deliberate, like someone who didn't need permission to exist there. Anthony stepped back slowly from the door. For the first time since arriving in Seoul, he wasn't just uncomfortable. He was aware. This wasn't neglect. This was placement, positioning, containment. He looked around the room again, the thin mattress, the sealed window, the locked door, and finally said it out loud. So I'm not a guest. A pause. Then quietly, I'm something you're hiding. Outside, laughter erupted from the main house. Inside, silence tightened. Anthony exhaled slowly and sat back down. But this time, he didn't relax. He stayed upright, listening, waiting, because whatever was happening beyond that door was no longer just a family situation. It was the beginning of something else entirely. The first sign something was wrong wasn't the silence. It was the absence of rhythm. Anthony noticed it around midday. No footsteps passing his door. No distant clatter of plates. No shifting voices moving through the house like usual. Just stillness. Too clean. Too intentional. He stood slowly from the mattress and walked to the door, pressed his ear against it. Nothing. Then a low vibration. Not outside. Inside his pocket. His phone. Anthony frowned and pulled it out. 1 bar of signal flickered, then disappeared. A notification appeared. Signal restricted. He stared at it for a moment. That's new, he muttered. He tried again. Nothing. Then he knocked lightly. Kira? No answer. He knocked harder. Kira? Still nothing. Now the silence felt different. Not empty. Controlled, like someone had lowered the entire house's volume on purpose. Downstairs, voices returned, but they were changed, lower, slower, measured. Anthony pressed his ear to the door again. Security sweep complete. No movement from guest room. Keep it quiet until chairman leaves. He froze. Guest room. Not a name, not a person, a classification. He stepped back slowly. Keep it quiet, he repeated under his breath. About me? His jaw tightened. This isn't confusion anymore. By evening, the air in the room had thickened. No fan, no circulation, just sealed glass and stale heat that refused to move. Anthony sat on the mattress, shirt slightly stuck to his back. His stomach growled. He ignored it, because hunger wasn't the problem anymore. Understanding was. The house wasn't hosting him. It was containing him. Then the door handle rattled. Once, twice. Anthony stood immediately. Kira, he called. No answer. A pause. Then a voice. Not hers. You are to remain inside. Anthony stepped forward. Who are you? Silence. Then footsteps. Leaving. No explanation, no identity, just instruction. Anthony let out a short, humorless breath. Not laughter. Recognition of absurdity. He walked back to the mattress and sat down slowly. So this is it, he said quietly. Not a collapse, just a door. He leaned forward, elbows on knees. I survived boardrooms that erased people. I survived betrayal that wiped my name off the map. He looked at the door. And now I'm being handled like I don't exist. Silence answered him. Outside, the house had changed its rhythm. Controlled footsteps, soft doors closing, movement that felt coordinated, not casual. Someone important was moving through the space, and everyone else had learned to disappear around it. Then Kira's voice farther away than usual. It's fine. He's resting. A pause. Then a man responded, calm, cold. And he understands the rules? Kira hesitated. Yes. Anthony's eyes narrowed. No, he whispered. She didn't say that like she meant it. Night arrived faster than it should have, or maybe time just stopped behaving normally in a place like this. Anthony lay on the mattress, staring at the ceiling. Sleep wasn't coming. Thoughts were too many. Daniel Park, the collapse, the company, Kira's house, the locked door, the voices, all of it stacking, not randomly, deliberately, like a pattern forming just out of reach. Then footsteps again, closer this time, stopping right outside his door. Anthony sat up immediately. The handle turned slowly, not rushed, not uncertain, controlled. The door didn't open fully, just enough for hallway light to spill in. A voice followed, calm, polished, unbothered. You should not be here. Anthony didn't answer immediately. Then, neither should I, apparently. A pause, no reaction to the humor. It is safer for you inside. Anthony stood slowly. Safer from what? Silence. That same silence. The kind that wasn't empty. It was intentional. The door closed. No explanation. No continuation. Just absence again. Anthony walked to the center of the room slowly, his breathing steady. But his thoughts no longer scattered. This isn't protection, he said quietly. It's isolation. He turned toward the sealed window. Outside, Seoul was still alive, still moving, still unaware. Anthony pressed his palm against the glass. I've been here before, he murmured. Not like this, but close enough. He stepped back, and for the first time since the door had locked, he wasn't confused anymore. He was aware, because whatever this house was hiding had finally decided he was part of it, whether he agreed or not. The phone didn't ring, it just vibrated once, then stopped. Anthony sat up slowly on the mattress, eyes narrowing at the screen. Unknown number. He almost ignored it, almost. Then it rang again. This time he answered. Hello. A pause, then a woman's voice, shaky at first, then breaking. Is this Anthony Adeyemi? He straightened slightly. Yes. Another pause. Then suddenly, thank God. The voice cracked completely. Anthony frowned. Who is this? The woman was crying now. Not quiet tears, full disbelief. I've been looking for you for years. Years. Anthony leaned forward. I think you have the wrong person. No, she said quickly. No, I don't. You used to work with Westbridge Capital in New York, right? That stopped him. He didn't answer immediately. Yes. The crying intensified. I knew it, she whispered. I knew I wasn't wrong. Anthony stood now. Ma'am, I don't know what this is about. My name is Hana Kim. That made him pause. Hana Kim, a name that didn't belong to the present. It belonged to something buried, something unfinished. Years ago, she continued, voice trembling, I came to your office in Manhattan. I had nothing. No English confidence, no connections. I was trying to get funding for my import business. Anthony's eyes narrowed slightly. Memory flickered. A woman, nervous hands, a rejected proposal, and him stopping her before she left. He spoke more slowly now. You were the logistics proposal. Yes, she said immediately. Everyone rejected me. Everyone. Anthony leaned back slightly, remembering. He had taken her file, reviewed it, then restructured her numbers himself. Not because it was safe, because it was possible. I didn't think you'd remember me, she said. Anthony exhaled. I meet a lot of people. But you changed my life, she said firmly. You didn't have to help me, but you did. Silence. Then she added, and now I can finally repay you. Anthony frowned. Repay me? Her voice dropped. I own companies now, logistics, shipping, distribution across Asia, and I'm not just an entrepreneur anymore. A pause. I work with people you probably don't want to hear about over the phone. Anthony's eyes sharpened. What people? Silence. Careful silence. Then she said softly, people who know exactly where you are right now. Anthony went completely still. His eyes slowly shifted toward the door. What did you say? Hannah's voice lowered. I didn't come back into your life by accident, Anthony. A pause. I was told to find you. Down the hallway, footsteps moved, controlled, deliberate, closer than before. Anthony lowered his voice. Who told you? A breath. Then she answered, one of the families you are currently staying under. Silence hit the room like pressure. Anthony didn't move, didn't blink, just listened. Hannah continued, you're inside a protected circle right now, a very dangerous one. Anthony let out a short, humorless breath. Yeah, I noticed. They think you don't understand what's happening around you. I don't, he admitted. But I learned fast. A pause. Then Hannah spoke again, slower now. They don't want you seen. Not because you're irrelevant. Her voice dropped. Now, but because you are connected to someone they fear. Anthony frowned. I'm not connected to anyone. You are, she said, then added quietly. To me. Silence. That landed differently. Anthony stepped forward slightly. Explain. Hannah exhaled. I didn't build my companies alone. I built them with backing from people who operate in shadows. Anthony's jaw tightened. So I helped you step into that world. Yes. Another pause. Then she said something that changed the air completely. And now they've found out you're back in Korea. Footsteps stopped outside the door. Anthony noticed instantly. The atmosphere shifted. Hannah's voice became urgent. Stay calm. Don't confront anyone yet. Anthony's eyes stayed locked on the door. People are outside my room, he said quietly. I know. Silence. Then, I can get you out tonight. Anthony turned slightly. Why? Hannah didn't hesitate. Because you're not a guest in that house. A pause. Your leverage. That word hung in the air. Leverage. Anthony repeated it quietly. Then he gave a small, slow laugh, soft, dangerous. So that's what this is. Hannah's voice softened. It's bigger than you think. Anthony looked at the door again. The footsteps were gone now, but the presence remained. You found me, he said slowly. Yes, and now I'm a target. Yes. A pause. Then Anthony said quietly, then whoever locked me in this room just made a mistake. Silence. Hannah didn't respond immediately. Then she whispered, Anthony, don't move yet. But Anthony was already looking at the door differently now, not like a prisoner, but like someone starting to understand the shape of the trap, and for the first time since this began. He smiled. Anthony didn't move right away. He just stood there, phone still in his hand, eyes fixed on the door like it had started speaking a language he finally understood. Hannah's voice was still in his ear. Anthony, listen to me. Don't do anything reckless. But something had already shifted in him. Not anger, not panic, clarity. I've been in reckless situations before, he said quietly. That's not the issue, Hannah replied quickly. This isn't finance. This is structure. Power systems you don't see until you're already inside them. Anthony gave a small nod, even though she couldn't see him. Then I guess I'm finally seeing it. A pause. Then Hannah lowered her voice. There's a vehicle waiting 2 streets behind the house, black van, no markings. If you move quietly, No one will stop you. Anthony looked toward the door again. Footsteps, slow, controlled, closer. I can hear them, he said. Hannah went silent. Then you don't have much time. Outside the room, the hallway lights were dimmer than usual. Not broken, intentional, the kind of lighting designed to make control feel like comfort. A man stood at the end of the corridor. Tall, calm, hands in his pockets. He wasn't rushing. He didn't need to. Another man walked past and stopped. He's still inside? The first man nodded slightly. He's where he should be. A pause. Then the second man asked, "Does he understand what this place is?" A faint smile crossed the first man's face. "No," he said, "but he will." Inside the room, Anthony ended the call. No dramatic gesture, just lowered the phone slowly, then placed it on the mattress. For a moment he stood still, listening, not to silence, but to what was underneath it, the structure, the rhythm, the control. "This isn't random," he muttered. "This is organized." He walked to the door, pressed his hand against it, cold, solid, final, then knocked once, not aggressive, just enough. The footsteps outside stopped immediately. A voice came through, calm. "You should rest." Anthony tilted his head slightly. Am I under protection or surveillance? Silence. That same silence. Then, both are true. Anthony exhaled slowly. Convenient. No response. He nodded once. Open the door. The hallway went still. Even the air felt paused. Then the answer came. No. Simple. Clean. Final. Anthony gave a small smile. Yeah, he muttered. I figured. He stepped back from the door slowly, then turned toward the window. The city outside was brighter now. Seoul didn't sleep, just changed faces. He pressed his palm against the glass. You ever notice something? He said quietly. Every time someone says, it's for your safety, it usually means it's for their control. No answer came, but he didn't need one. He already knew. Downstairs, Kira sat in the living room, tension in her posture. Her husband noticed immediately. What is it? He asked in Korean. Kira hesitated. He asked to leave. The husband frowned. And? They said no. A pause. Then Kira added softly, he's starting to understand. Her husband's expression tightened slightly. Not fear, assessment. That's not good, he said quietly. Kira looked toward the ceiling. I think it's already past good. Back upstairs, Anthony grabbed his jacket, slowly, deliberately, not rushed, not emotional, controlled. Then he sat back on the mattress, waiting, because now he understood something clearly. He wasn't trapped in a room. He was inside a system deciding what to do with him, and systems always made the same mistake. They assume silence means compliance. From outside, footsteps began again. Closer. More than one now. Anthony looked at the door. This is the part where they think I stay still, he said quietly. He rolled his shoulders once. Let's see how that goes. And for the first time since the lock clicked shut, he wasn't waiting to be rescued. He was waiting for the door to open. The door didn't open. It unlocked. That small difference changed everything. A soft mechanical click echoed through the room, followed by stillness so precise it felt staged. Anthony didn't move immediately. He just stared at the handle, then slowly exhaled. Interesting, he muttered. From outside, footsteps paused, not leaving, waiting. Then the same calm voice from earlier came through the door. You may come out. No explanation, no apology, just permission. Anthony tilted his head slightly. Now it's permission. Silence. He reached for the handle but stopped halfway, then spoke instead. Who decided that? No answer. That same silence. But this time it felt different, not empty, strategic. Anthony smiled faintly. Yeah, I thought so. He opened the door. The hallway felt longer than before. Or maybe it just felt more real now that he was no longer contained. Two men stood a few steps away, both dressed simply, too simply for how expensive everything around them felt. One of them nodded slightly. "Follow." Anthony didn't move immediately. He looked past them, down the corridor, toward movement, toward a life that had been pretending he didn't exist an hour ago. Then he stepped out, not cautiously, not slowly, just forward. Downstairs, the house had already shifted again. The dinner was over, but the atmosphere remained. Heavy conversations, low voices, controlled laughter that didn't belong to Joy. People were still there, important people. Anthony noticed how the energy shifted the moment he appeared at the top of the stairs. A few heads turned, then quickly looked away, like recognition wasn't allowed. Kira stood near the living room entrance. When she saw him, her eyes widened slightly. Anthony. He didn't stop, but he looked at her, just for a second. Not angry, not emotional, just aware. Then he continued down. At the bottom of the stairs, a man stepped forward. Older, calm, the kind of calm that came from being obeyed for too long. He studied Anthony for a moment, then spoke in English. "You've been informed incorrectly about your situation." Anthony tilted his head slightly. "Have I?" A faint smile from the man. "You are not a prisoner." Anthony glanced around the house, then back. "Feels like one." The man nodded once. "Perception can be misleading." Anthony stepped closer. "Or revealing." A pause. The air tightened slightly. Then the man said, "You are here because of association, not detention." Anthony's eyes narrowed. Association with who? Silence. That hesitation again. Then, with people you are now connected to, whether you understand it or not. Across the room, Kira's husband shifted, uncomfortably. Kira looked like she wanted to speak but didn't. The man continued calmly. "Leaving tonight is possible." Anthony raised a brow. Suddenly, a faint smile. "We don't wish to escalate misunderstanding." Anthony laughed once, short, dry. "No," he said. "You don't want confusion. There's a difference." That landed. The man didn't respond immediately. Then a new voice entered the room. Female, controlled, familiar in a way Anthony hadn't fully processed yet. "I told them he would react this way." Anthony turned slowly. Hana Kim stood near the entrance. Not rushed, not surprised, just present. Their eyes met. For a moment the room felt smaller. Then Anthony spoke first. "So this is your world?" Hana nodded slowly. "Part of it." Anthony stepped closer. "And I'm in it now." "Yes." A pause. Then she added quietly, "Whether you stay or leave, you are already inside the structure." Anthony studied her, then asked, "Why me?" Hana didn't hesitate. "Because you survived collapse without becoming desperate." That line landed heavier than anything else so far. Anthony exhaled slowly. "That's your qualification." "It's rare." Silence. Behind them, the man watched carefully. Kira's husband whispered something in Korean. Kira didn't respond. She was watching Anthony instead, like she was finally seeing him properly. Hana stepped slightly closer. "You can leave tonight," she said again, "but you won't understand what you're walking away from." Anthony looked toward the door, then back at her. "And if I stay?" A pause. Then Hana said softly, "Then you stop being a guest in someone else's house and start becoming part of what runs it." That shifted the air completely. Anthony didn't respond immediately. He just looked around the room again, at the structure, at the silence between conversations, at the way people avoided looking at him too directly. Then he nodded once, slow, intentional. "So that's what this is." Hana didn't answer, because she didn't need to. Anthony took one step forward, then another, stopping just beside her. He lowered his voice. "You should have told me earlier." Hana glanced at him. "I did." A faint pause. Then she added, "You just weren't ready to hear it." Anthony looked ahead, toward the doors of the house, now fully aware that nothing here had ever been accidental. and for the first time, he didn't feel trapped. He felt positioned. Anthony didn't leave that night, but he also didn't stay the same. That was the difference everyone in the house felt immediately. He wasn't pacing anymore, wasn't waiting, wasn't hiding. He was observing. Like the room had finally become transparent to him. Hannah stood beside him near the edge of the living room, quiet, controlled, waiting. Kira's husband was the first to speak again, forcing a polite smile. "So, you've decided to stay." Anthony looked at him, not hostile, not emotional, just direct. "I didn't decide anything yet," he said. A pause. Then he added, "I'm just no longer confused." That line landed heavier than intended. The man's smile faded slightly. Kira stepped forward slowly. "Anthony." He turned to her, and for the first time since arriving, he didn't look like someone asking for permission to exist. He looked like someone evaluating a system. Kira swallowed. "I didn't know it would become like this." Anthony nodded once. "I believe you." That surprised her. He continued, "But belief doesn't change impact." Silence. Kira lowered her eyes. Hannah broke the silence gently. "You have two paths now." Anthony glanced at her. She continued. "One, you walk away tonight. You disappear back into what you were before this house." A pause. "Or two, you step into what this house is actually connected to." Anthony let out a quiet breath. "And what is that exactly?" Hannah looked at him for a moment before answering. "Power that doesn't introduce itself." Silence. From the far end of the room, the older man stepped forward again, calm, composed. "You are not being pressured," he said. "We are offering clarity." Anthony tilted his head slightly. "That's an interesting word for it." A faint pause, then he added, "Because clarity usually comes after truth, not before control." That landed differently this time. No one responded immediately. Kira suddenly spoke, voice softer now. "If you leave, they will still watch." Anthony turned to her. She continued carefully. "This didn't start with you coming here. You were already on their radar before you arrived." Anthony frowned slightly. "Why?" Hannah answered this time. "Because of Daniel Park," that name again. But this time it didn't feel like memory. It felt like weight. Anthony exhaled slowly. "So all of this," he gestured lightly around the house, "is connected to him." Hannah nodded. "And the people he works with." Anthony looked down for a moment, then laughed once. Not amused, not bitter, just realizing. "I didn't lose a company," he said quietly. "I walked into a network I didn't even know existed." No one corrected him. A long silence followed, the kind that forces decisions to stop being optional. Finally, Anthony spoke again. "If I stay," he looked at Hannah. "What do I become?" Hannah didn't hesitate. "Someone who can't be ignored anymore." Anthony nodded slowly, then looked toward the door, the same door that once locked him in, now just an exit, or an entry point, depending on choice. Behind him, Kira's voice broke softly. "Anthony." He turned one last time. She looked conflicted, afraid, human. "I'm sorry," she said. He studied her for a moment, then nodded. "I know." A pause, then he added quietly, "But this was never about you." He turned back toward Hannah, then toward the older man, then toward the house itself, and finally said, "If I step into this." A pause. "There's no going back, is there?" Hannah met his eyes. "No," she said simply. Anthony exhaled, long, measured, then nodded once. "Then I'm done being invisible." Silence. That line changed the air completely. He walked forward, past Hannah, past the waiting men, past Kira, toward the exit. Not rushed, not emotional, controlled, every step deliberate. The door opened before he touched it. Outside, Seoul was still alive, still glowing, still unaware. Anthony paused at the threshold, looked back once, not at the people, at the structure, at the house, at everything that had tried to contain him without ever naming itself. Then he stepped out. Behind him, Hannah spoke quietly. "He'll understand soon what he just agreed to," the older man replied. "No." A pause. "He already does." And somewhere in the distance, unseen by anyone in that house, a different world quietly adjusted itself, because a man who was never supposed to be noticed again had just been recruited by the very system that once tried to hide him. And this time he wasn't the one being contained.